I love how we're all wearing our quarter
We're
zips
very
or full
outdoors.
zips today.
Not fancy.
No.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to get started in just a minute once everybody comes in from the waiting room. I know we're very outdoors today. And I love Jenna's Christmas tree. I'm so jealous.
On brand.
Oh my gosh. And my house is mid-move, which is why I have like half empty bookshelves and yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know.
I love the Christmas tree.
I'm impressed that you're doing that during the holiday season.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a great audience with us today, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I am Maggie Bittner, Head of Education for SIA, and thank you for taking time to join us today. We're very pleased to have Jenna Selmer and Ali Carr from Basecamp here to talk to us a little bit about hiring in today's world. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you guys, and I'll see you at the end.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. So nice to have you all here today and excited to kind of share with you what Jenna and I have put together for this presentation. I'm just going to share my screen really quickly, give you a quick overview of Basecamp in case you're not familiar. Jenna, would you like to say hello before I dive in?
Yeah, hi everyone. We just want to let you know a little bit about like who we are and why we're actually talking today. So I'm going to do that here. And then if you have any questions at all, please just drop those in the Q&A during the presentation at any time, because we might pick those up and discuss them while we're talking about that topic. We might do that at the end. We want to leave a lot of time for Q&A, or we can actually reach out to you if it's a very specific question later. So please feel free to interact during the presentation.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm Ali Carr. I am the founder of Basecamp. I started the group in 2017 just as a place for the outdoor industry to connect. At the time, we were really only connecting at the OR show, sort of in person twice a year, and the SIA, and the snow sports show. And so now I created this space so that people could interact dynamically, talk to each other, virtually throughout the year, throw jobs and opportunities at each other, have a place to collaborate. And that's how it kicked off. We have quite a wide variety of folks in the group, everyone from CEOs, creative directors to journalists, lots of journalists and freelancers within the industry or looking to break into the industry, students, mid-level folks. There is a wide variety, and that's always been at the core of this group. It has been a place for people who are already in the industry to interact, and then also folks who want to learn more about the industry. And the point was always to make it a very inclusive space, never just the industry has had a long-standing sort of reputation of being exclusive, and that the goal was to kind of bust that a little bit and bring in anyone who was curious about the industry to learn more. So we have very strong values within our brand and our group, which is that we are community first. We will always be thinking about our members of our community. We have about almost 30,000 members in the group, and that grows by about 1,000 members a month. And then we have 13,000 subscribers to our newsletter, and that grows by about 500 a month. So lots and lots of job seekers and a super talented pool of folks to collaborate and network with. This is what Basecamp is made up of. We are a community, a newsletter, a podcast. We have events, both virtual and in real life, content, and really a vehicle for change. We have a lot of moderated discussions in the group about social change and change within hiring practices and employment within the industry. And we'll get into that a little bit more as we go. Here's our little staff, just give you a peek. We have myself and Jenna Selmer who are here, and then Gabacha Moreno, who is an admin for us in the group as well. Hannah Anderson, who is our social media person. Malia Shumate, who's our newsletter producer, and then Courtney Langtot, who helps us with sort of DEI initiatives and keeps us on track and making sure that we are considering all possible angles as we move through putting things out into the world, which is wonderful. Here's just a little quick timeline of Basecamp. So again, started in 2017. Jenna and I formed sort of our partnership loosely in 2019 when she joined the group and was just a very, very avid member, communicating often. And I recognized what she was bringing to the group and asked her if she wanted to admin. We both have been doing this as a labor of love for a very, very long time and have really grown it into a business just in the last year. And it's been incredible to see the energy and response as we launch things. And folks have really just, joined us in every aspect of Basecamp as we roll it out. So it's super fun to see. Here are some of the brands that we work with. Oops, sorry, clicked the wrong way. Across the different aspects of the business. And here's just some examples of some of the posts in the group that you might see. So we have conversation series where we talk about different, sometimes provocative topics and look to our community as experts in the field to really weigh in. And it's incredible to see the conversation that comes out of those posts. We really do have some incredible members who are much smarter than us and lend their expertise very generously. So it's amazing to see the community sort of show up for each other. Again, here's our newsletter. I'm not going to run through that too intensely. And then we have our weekly job drops where Jenna or I go on social media and talk about our favorite jobs of the week. We have a mandate here to have salary transparency. So in terms of the jobs that we pick, we're always looking for jobs that post salary because that does multiple things, which is eliminate wasted time on the part of the hiring party and the employee, closes the wage gap, helps close the wage gap for women and members of marginalized communities, and it just overall is an incredibly good practice for trust in your brand. We know too that this is not a light switch that can be turned on, and sometimes there have to be internal steps made in order to get to this place of being able to share wage transparency. But really, even showcasing that you're taking the steps to move towards it is an incredibly important marketing story to tell. So just adding that in there. Jenna's power just went out, she says, so she will be back shortly, but just as a heads up there. And then office hours is where we bring in brands and interview them on Zoom to talk to our audience, sort of in the same setting as we're in right now, where our community comes in, they listen to brands, talk about what it's like to work there, what they're looking for in candidates, and then we do an interactive Q&A session with the brand. There's some of the brands that we've worked with. Sponsored content in our newsletter. We work with brands to produce different types of sponsored content, all that will be sort of beneficial and helpful for our audience. So we try to strive for topics that we feel like our audience will learn from and will value. And then we have an additional leg of our business that we started with a company called Seeker. And this is called Project Respect Outdoors. And Project Respect Outdoors is really about recognizing women in this industry and the inequities that women have faced over the years. And we are trying to shed light on that and start to make action steps towards making it a more equitable industry as a whole. So that is Basecamp Outdoor. Jenna, are you here? Are you able to step in?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, everyone, my power went out. We're now using hotspot, but that's okay. And really what I wanted to say is about this talk today, what we're going to do is use insights from the community that Ali just filled you in on of who we are and what we're doing there. And really what Basecamp is a front row seat to information from job seekers, the exact people that you want to hire. So anyone can go on Basecamp, anyone can see those conversations, learn from them, and we super encourage you to do that. But not everyone has time to pull those insights and understand what they mean and how you should actually use them. So that's what we're doing here today. And, a really cool presentation would just be kind of going through my DMs and my inbox and seeing what people really have to say, because that's a really great education for employers, but we're not going to do that today. We're going to kind of like scrub that information and make it accessible. And again, if you have a question that is really specific to your industry, because I know we have people here today that are hiring for more full-time corporate positions. We also have a lot of people that are hiring for seasonal folks. Both of those exist in Basecamp, and the general advice we have is very similar, but there are definitely differences. So let us know if you have questions specific to your scenario, and we will definitely try to address those with you and as we can. But to start, really what we want to say is that your hiring process is inherent in your branding. And what your branding is how you are perceived internally, what your employers think about what you're doing and your culture and how you do it and your leadership and things like that. So taking that and actually showcasing it to the public, that's called recruitment marketing. And that's really where we're seeing this disconnect, as we have a lot of employers doing great things, but not talking about them. And then we have some employers doing not so great things. And those are both a problem. So you might be doing everything that a job seeker wants to know about. They just don't know it. And so you're not going to attract that really top tier talent. And the information we'll present today will be, here's what people want to see, and here's some ideas for you to show them it, and how to show them it, and how to make sure also you can reach those diverse candidates as well, because they're wanting to see some specific things about how you're supporting them. And it's hard to know everything and do everything.
Oh, Jenna, are you still there? Okay. All right, I will hop in now quickly. So one thing that we've done with our audience is really poll them to understand what's important to them as job seekers from a hiring standpoint. We're at a very unique point in history right now, as you all probably know, that many people are leaving their jobs. The Great Resignation is sort of imminent or happening, and the tides have turned in terms of who is interviewing who. So really the power has moved from brands and companies to the job seekers, and it is a job seekers market. And now brands, as Jenna mentioned, really need to double down on how they are marketing to job seekers and making sure that they are super transparent with the many ways that they support employees and all of the things that will win a potential employee's attention. So we interview our community quite often, but this is one poll that I wanted to share with all of you. Let me share my screen one more time here. Okay. And so here's an example of a poll that we did to find out what it was that was very important to folks in terms of applying to roles. And you can see the response numbers here are pretty high. So 557 votes were for flexibility on remote work. So as we can see, the workforce is really saying we want to be able to work remotely. We want generous PTO, paid healthcare premiums, matching 401k. 4-day work week was definitely up there in terms of the things that folks are looking for. Diverse leadership, and the list goes on. I mean, we have a lot of this data to share. And then one of the other things that I wanted to call out as potentially even more than these is that pay really matters. And I want to call that out, especially here in this industry, because we have had a long-standing history in the snow sports world, in the outdoor industry, action sports world, of sort of banking on passion and banking on the fact that we are offering folks, opportunities that allow them to work in the field that they're passionate about, and therefore don't need to compensate as fairly as potentially other industries like tech. But really, people do need to pay their bills, and people also need to, just have a living wage. And so I just wanted to point that out, that really pay is going to be potentially even more important than remote and flexible work or having time off. So very, very important to really look at what is a fair wage. I also will point out that looking at that fair wage will also help with retention and building elite teams. And as we see sort of I would say that the walls around these industries, snow sports, outdoor industry, are becoming less concrete. We're seeing a lot more sort of crossover in the consumer world of who identifies as outdoor. Folks might go to the climbing gym and live in a city, and then they might also do many other things that have nothing to do with the outdoor industry, and they might still consider themselves outdoorsy. So as this persona changes and shifts, also think about that as your potential employee base and who you're competing with for those employees and what those other companies are offering. So kind of breaking down the barriers around this as if these industries live in a vacuum.
Yeah. And all of these things, this is your employer brand, like I was describing before. And each company needs to make some really personal decisions internally about how you're handling these. So the list that I have is pay, remote work, time off, growth, mental health, and housing. And you need to sit down with that list and really say, how is our company handling this? How are we supporting people's mental health? A lot of companies don't have a plan for that when we ask, and people's brains make every decision for your workplace. So you have some incentive to keep them healthy. That's also a big part of when people feel supported or not, which we're going to go into a little bit with our retention piece. But you need to make those decisions. And then the second piece of that is you really need to talk about them. And that's where your career page comes in. And that's where your job descriptions come in. And so when we work with companies and brands, we go to their career page and we see that it's about the company a lot. And a candidate wants to go to those pages and see how that company is supporting them. Like, what's in it for me? Just like if anyone's familiar with making a pitch for a partnership or for a new client, you're not telling that person why you're great. You're telling that person how you can provide them value. And in 2021, like, it is a candidate's job market. So you do need to stand out. And perhaps, yeah, you're going to get those applications if you do the bare minimum from people that really need a job. But make a decision if you want applications from the top tier of talent or just the folks that really want a job, and do those little extra things, like put those values right on your career page for people to find without having to ask you for them. Put testimonials from existing employees on there, because if I want to know about your workplace, I don't come to you and ask. I ask somebody I know that works there. And I say, how are they supporting you? And what do you like about this team? So if you do have evangelists already in your workplace, utilize those. Maybe ask them to drop a little testimonial for you, put those right on your career pages. It's really all about transparency. So taking these things that we're talking about and just making them available for people so that they don't have to wonder. There's also things like the hiring process. People want to know what this is going to look like. Like, is this going to take 3 months to do this hiring process? You really should, for your own sake, have, a designated process where you say, well, in the first 2 weeks, we do this, and then we have this many interviews, and then we will get in touch with these candidates. So for example, at Basecamp, we say, for 2 weeks, we're going to be looking at your application. Please get them in. And then we will reach out to the people that we want to interview. And then at the end, we will reach out to everyone that applied and let them know, that the position has been filled, but we will only give individual feedback to people we've interviewed. And now that is giving everyone an understanding of it's expectation management at the outset. A lot of times, if we're finding that an employer's brand is a little bit off, it's not because they're doing something wrong necessarily. It's just that a candidate might have been expecting something that didn't happen. It's okay that thing didn't happen, but you can really circumnavigate that by just letting people know, here's the process, making them feel comfortable, making them feel good about it, and like you care. And again, it's going to, help save you time in the end. So that should really be on your careers page as well. Anything regarding your leadership style and all of these perks and benefits that we're talking about should be displayed all up there. So that's a lot of stuff, I know, but really, I mean, when you go, let's say you're looking at a new software, you want all the information you can get. You don't really want to talk to a person quite yet. You don't know if you want to do a meeting with them. You don't know if you want to apply for this. You want all that information up front so that you do know if you want to apply. Job descriptions are really the next piece of this. And I can tell you that if you are not putting the wage in your job description, you are losing about half of your talent pool right off the bat, because they will look for this information. If they cannot find it, they will move on. This is greater in the women and BIPOC demographics. They're really getting very choosy, as they should be, about which roles they're applying to. And so if you're not giving them the information they need to see, they're going to leave. I look at hundreds of job descriptions every week. Some people don't even put where the location where the job will be done, or they'll say it's remote eligible when really they mean it's work from home. And so little things like that can actually alienate people, because it just seems like there's so much either inconsistency, or you're just not comfortable with understanding what's required of you, that you can alienate people without meaning to. And some other ways this happens is the language in the job description itself. And this is really, really important, because there's so much unconscious bias that we can emit from the words that we use. And not everyone will feel welcome to apply for your job if you're using things like gendered language. And gendered language can be something like freshman, right? With like the word man in it. But it can also be something like the word decisive is actually gendered. That attracts more male applicants. A word like caring actually will appeal a little bit more to female applicants. So there's these little they're very hard to know and notice, but there's these little language choices that you can make that will make everyone feel welcome, or just cut off your candidate pool. And they don't necessarily know what's happening. They just know that they don't feel super comfortable applying. So it's really something that you need to look out for. Some more examples of this, I've written some down that are kind of repeat offenders, if you will, in the group. We ask this all the time about like, what will turn you off of a job vacancy. The terms rockstar, guru, and ninja, don't put these in your job descriptions. There's a couple of reasons. Those are gendered as well. They skew more toward men. And so you might get like a lot of male applicants, and that's great if that's what you're looking for. But other people might fall off. And then additionally, it's just, there's this vibe that when you're using these terms, that the person that you're trying to hire is going to have like 5 jobs and be paid for 1 job. So applicants are getting really smart about stuff like that. They don't want to be a unicorn. They don't want to do more work than they're being paid for. They want to be an expert in their field, and they want to sell you the skills that are going to help grow your company, but they don't want to be taken advantage of. And words like that can sometimes insinuate that they might be. Another really big offender is we're a family, and that one is really, really difficult to know, because it sounds like, well, no, we get along so well and we embrace people. There's 2 reasons it's not a great thing to say. Number 1 is boundaries. It makes people feel like you are going to be counting on them or guilting them to do work outside of the purview of their job description. The second one is a lot of people are looking for culture fits when they are when they're looking for new people. And that's great, but really what you should be doing is looking for a culture at. So someone that will enrich your culture and your company and bring new perspectives. When you say we're a family, it feels very kind of closed off and almost elitist. So again, you might be alienating those more, diverse groups that you would love to see apply for your company, and you would love their perspectives in it, but you're going to be off-putting if you're using phrases like that. And then the last category of that is just jargon. A lot of times companies will put requirements that are, well, I'll talk about that in a sec. The jargon could be very specific terms to your industry that not everyone understands. So sure, maybe we should understand, but I'm a military spouse. So there are 4 million acronyms in the military that are in my brain. those are probably also in the outdoor industry or in your field in particular. And I don't know specifically what yours is referring to. So it's never a good idea to have these like high, like the terms that are very specific to your jobs. Also, you know, it's just, it makes for better reading if you have very simple language and are saying, here's what this person will do. Don't try to look cool. Like, I don't want to read that. And no one really wants to read that. I want to know what I will be doing in this job. And I want to know that way I can tell you if I can do it or not. And it will save you time too, because you're not like combing through the forest to look super, you know, cool in that way. So I would really avoid those. And like I said, those requirements too, you really should try to avoid having a ton of requirements. If you really want someone with a specific years of experience, okay. But if you're saying, well, we want someone with 10 years of experience and a master's degree and all of these things, decide what's a wish list and decide what's really needed, because there are some candidates out there, specifically in the creative fields like marketing, things like that. They are learning by doing. And let me tell you, they're more qualified than a lot of people that have formal education or a lot of tenure in the industry. So if you have a lot of requirements, people might think that they're not eligible to apply, and they won't, when they would be amazing fits for you. So that was a really long-winded what not to do in terms of job descriptions.
Thanks for that, Jenna. Yeah, I loved the point of like, really transparency equals like safety and people feeling like they understand and have all of the information that they need is going to help them feel comfortable applying for your job. So really, really great points there.
And knowing that they're the right fit. So it doesn't have to be, you know, a specific thing that you're talking about. It just has to be true of your organization so that you can attract the people that will be happy there.
Totally. So next up, we want to talk a little bit about how to advertise open positions, where to advertise open positions in order to, you know, maximize your job posting, and then also start to gather the candidates that, you know, you're really looking for. So you want to create pipelines for obvious fits. So thinking about, you know, targeting, if it's sort of an entry-level job or maybe a seasonal job, targeting colleges and outdoor clubs and rec groups. What we learned recently is that so many students out there who attend career fairs have no idea that the outdoor industry or snow sports industries exist. You know, at career fairs on college campuses, we see tech companies, we see pharmaceutical companies, many other industries, but we do not see representatives from the outdoor industry or the ski sports, snow sports industry, ski and snowboard industry. So really, it, you know, unless these students potentially grew up in a location where there was a lot of this industry happening, or, you know, have partaked in some way that introduced them to the industry, a lot of them don't even know that these jobs are possible. So thinking about how to get in at that ground level in places that you might not have thought of or might not be obvious, but have outdoor clubs and recreation groups. Many, many, many colleges have these types of groups. And so that's a great place to start and expose folks to your brand. Additionally, if you're looking for, you know, to diversify, as so many brands and companies are and should be, historical Black colleges and universities is a fantastic place to look and also introduce that group to the outdoor industry, the snow sports industry, and really start to just, you know, get those wheels turning. Think about also programs that have a biology focus, a climate focus, sort of recreation studies, and targeting colleges and universities in those realms as well. Sort of low-hanging fruit, Facebook groups. Basecamp is a good example, but there are so many job Facebook groups out there that I highly recommend that you go in and just poke around and start joining and just get in the conversation. Look at the posting guidelines, make sure that you're following the rules of the group. That will not only, put you in good standing with the group, but will also, like, for instance, we require hashtags at the top of our job postings in the Basecamp Facebook group. And those are meant to give our members, that sort of at a glance view of your opportunity so people can skim. And then when they find something that's a fit for them, they'll dig in deeper. So this really actually helps you get more eyeballs. It maximizes your job posting on Facebook. You can look for affinity spaces and post your jobs in those affinity spaces as well. And then Jenna mentioned existing employees. If you have existing evangelists who will give you a testimonial, or even those, who you wouldn't think to tap, definitely ask them to share your job posting out with folks they know, share the job posting out with networks that they're affiliated with. Really utilizing your existing employee base to get the word out is just really, really wise. You have that base right there. Definitely use that to your advantage. And especially folks who will be willing to share about their own experience working for the brand. So a lot of times, one of the reasons that we started Basecamp was so that folks could talk to hiring managers directly. Usually you would be applying to job boards and then you would send your resume off and it would go off into the ether and you wouldn't know what happened to it or if it went anywhere. Here in Basecamp, you can talk to an employee who works at a brand who might be able to help, shoehorn your resume through to HR, could be the hiring manager. There are a lot of ways to connect with folks within the industry there. And so having your employees go into these types of groups and talk and share the job and talk about what they love about working there is very authentic and will resonate with members and likely drum up interest. Also talking to past employees, think about, we've heard from brands that have told us that during exit interviews, they hear some of the most, heartwarming stories about the employee's experience there at the brand. So how can you then leverage that relationship further once that employee leaves to help continue to evangelize for you? So thinking about that as well. And also, how can you bring employees back to your business who potentially were there before and then maybe left? So thinking about some sort of incentives for employees who you could get to return to your business as well. And then don't overlook, entire demographics, thinking about military folks, definitely, older folks. There are some jobs out in the field that we see that are for sort of older folks and retirees as a way to give them some work that they might want. And these jobs are specifically for that age group, which is so wonderful to see. So think across the demographic spectrum, think about who you're not talking to, and then engage those audiences, because more perspectives, more representation, we know only boosts your bottom line as a brand and as a company. So super cool to start to think about who you might not be talking to. Additionally, I just want to call out LinkedIn as you're ramping up sort of marketing practices around your hiring. Think about LinkedIn as a fabulous storytelling opportunity to point out ways that your employees are supported. So for instance, thinking about REI's Opt Outside campaign, right? Like they use that as a marketing campaign on Black Friday to keep people from sort of consumerism and have them go outside and use that day as an opportunity to spend it outside. And it's also a fantastic employee story because they give that gift to their employees as well. So that's something to share on LinkedIn that shows, here's how we're supporting our employees. We're giving them this extra sort of bonus day off because this is our company value, and we're going to push it through to our employees as well so they feel that value as a thread throughout their experience here. We're not just going to market this out to consumers and kind of that public facing audience. So really showcasing how your values within your company are being marketed to the public and then also marketed to your employees as well. And then, just additionally, always want to point out that we're here to help with hiring practices, anything that you need in terms of posting jobs. We have multiple places to post. So you can post in the group for free. You can post in our newsletter. It's $30 a week to post there. And then we have other avenues as well, our job drops, which I mentioned earlier, office hours, and multiple other ways to get the word out about your job. So don't be shy.
Yeah. And just to sum that up, everything that Basecamp does is oriented toward helping connect employers and job seekers and having people interact in a way that's a little more robust than what a job description can do, because that's a very transactional experience. So anything that you can do to interact with potential job seekers or the types of folks that really seem to love your opportunity, absolutely do that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the hiring process once you've already, disseminated that opportunity. Time always goes so quickly. This is a very high level overview, but there's two things that fill up my inbox. Number one, not to do thing is to ghost people. This will color people's perception of your brand faster than almost anything. In a recent poll, almost 90% of people in Basecamp had been ghosted by an employer, and they had some stories. We did not let them talk about individual people. However, they remembered this years later, being ghosted by companies. This will stick with them. And not only will they not apply for a role with you, they will tell everyone they know and they will stop shopping with you. So it is a really big deal, and it does impact your bottom line. What you can do, I kind of mentioned this in the beginning, but make that process very clear so that they know what to expect. And if you interview someone, you need to let them know what the outcome is. You cannot just leave them hanging. If you do not hire that person, you have to let them know, we have gone another way. Thank you so much. I would very much recommend that you give them a little bit of like a few pointers, right? I know there's some legal considerations for this, and you do need to navigate that, but you can, generally speaking, give some people some good advice and make them feel a little bit better about the process. The other thing that we see that will alienate people very quickly, at least top tier talent, which is who we prefer to hire, is asking for unpaid processes throughout the application. So an example is, let's say you're hiring a graphic designer and you're like, okay, well, why don't you design a logo for us and just show us your work, and not paying for that. There's a lot of problems with that. First of all, unpaid work is not a great way to go. It's not going to look good on your brand. And again, they're going to tell their peers and colleagues that they're spending time with an employer and they're not being compensated for that time. Additionally, a lot of people report that work that's being done as being used by the company later. So not only are they requesting free work, but they're using it later. And that's somebody's intellectual property. So it gets a little bit fussy there with the legal system, but again, it's just not a good look. What you can do instead is just ask them for previous examples of their work that already exists. If they're qualified to do this job, they can show you that they're qualified to do this job. If they don't have anything to show, sure, they can create it. That's part of their application process. But you designing, a task that's specific to your company is really unnecessary. If you really, really, really want to do that, what Basecamp does is we say, we would love to pay you for an hour of your time at the rate that we're advertising this job for, to see you in person, to see how you work. And in fact, that's paid work. So we're saying we would like you to create something and we're paying for that product and we would like to potentially use it later. So that's about 3 hours of work usually. We usually do that with 3 people. If we can't afford 3 hours of the amount of money it would take to contract someone, we probably can't afford to hire them anyway. So we really feel like that is money very well spent, and everyone in the application process feels very valued as well. So those are 2 things. And then, something that a lot of companies don't do is advertise people after the fact. And this is an absolute gold mine of information, because if you've interviewed people that don't take the job, you can go back about a month later because you don't want them to be thinking that they're still a candidate. You won't get good information from them. It will be skewed. But you can understand how your company is perceived and what they thought of the job and the culture and all of those things. They're typically willing to give you that information. Like I said, it's an absolute gold mine, and it's a very, very good reason to make sure that that whole interview process is leaving the candidate with a good impression, so that they will help you with that info later. Because again, you will not get better information than from somebody that has just gone through your process. It can say, maybe if you tweaked this, or I really loved this, and then next time you'll be a lot better as well. And also we're going to talk a little bit about retention, because I know that is a massive thing right now. People are leaving. I'll go through a couple of things in my notes here. The biggest thing that people want is to feel supported. And so if your employee does not feel like they can come to you or to their direct supervisor with anything, then they're not going to. They're going to start updating their resume, and they're going to go where they do feel supported and they do feel valued. And so creating that culture where people feel comfortable to talk about things like mental health. If they're having an awful time with mental health and they're not able to complete a task, can your employee come to you and say that? Because if they can't, they're probably going to leave. And that's just an example, but really you need to create that culture of good leadership where there is an actual open door policy, and people are not going to be, there's not going to be a penalty or a punishment for speaking their truth. Or let's say that, it's an employee that's seeing things in an organization that they would really like change, and it's not making them feel supported. Is bringing that up going to lead to a punishment, or is it going to lead to potential change? So having feedback channels specifically put out for that employees know about, that they're encouraged to use, and that actually create meaningful change, i.e. there's someone listening on the other side, is really, really the key and the core to retention. There's a couple of other things that are really important though. Growth is probably our number 2 thing that people want to know about when they get a new job and when they're applying for jobs is, if I get this job, is there going to be a ceiling? Like, am I just going to stagnate here? Or am I going to be very clear on what my next opportunity could be with the company and how I get there? So really clear feedback mechanisms, and like consistent ways to know what your expectations are. And if you're meeting those expectations, that's a really great thing for everyone, because then you can say, okay, well, here's the raise structure. Here's how often we get raises, or here's a promotion structure. And employees feel really good when they know that, because it feels within their control. And also, if they're doing everything right and they still can't get a promotion, that's a really good conversation for them to have. And we tell our people in Basecamp, your manager has a lot going on, and they're not always thinking about your compensation. So you need to raise your hand, and you're giving them the tools to say, here's what you asked of me, and here's why I think I deserve a promotion. So it's really saving everyone time, because they're able to come and ask for a promotion or a raise or a new title or whatever it might look like very intelligently. And it's data backed, and it is giving you the information that you want to know before making that decision. So make that all very transparent and very clear. Sometimes that's called career mapping as well, where you say to someone, maybe even before they apply, here is the route in the company if you want to, say, work in marketing at HQ. Let's say it's a retail job. Here's how you get from this entry-level retail job to this job at HQ. So having something like that to share, that would be amazing on a career page. I would love to see a company doing that. I actually never have. I'm writing that down in my mind for later. The manager people don't want to leave. Like I said, processes for grievances and making people feel really comfortable. This includes things like code switching. If people have to code switch in your organization, they don't feel comfortable there. I can tell you that. If people have to wear a certain thing to feel like they fit into the culture, like, very fancy or high heels or something like that, they're probably not everyone is going to feel super comfortable, and they're going to leave. And then also flexibility with work. The This is a very 2021 thing, but we are seeing a huge exodus of people when they are told that they must come back into the office, specifically for jobs that they have been performing at home really well and performing great with, and now they have to come back into the office. Completely understand that there are some jobs that do have to be on site. That's completely reasonable that those jobs have to remain on site. But if I have been at home for a year and I have been excelling in my work and you tell me that I have to go back to an office and not even give me the choice, I'm leaving that company. A lot of companies are doing more of a hybrid model where they're saying the offices are open. We would love you to come in. Please do so as you need. And a lot of people are going in a couple of days a week and getting that collaboration piece that is so important. But leaving it to their own agency says, I trust you. And that's what people want to hear. And let's see here. Yeah, pay parity and transparency. We have touched on this a lot. We're actually going to be doing a research study with Oregon State University that shows with data, because our anecdotes aren't always enough, that not only does pay parity, wage transparency help close the wage gap, but pay parity across an organization will help retain people because they feel valued and because they don't have to worry about, well, am I being underpaid here or not? It's very clear if they are, if you have transparency throughout the organization. So really making sure that you have systems to say, here's how pay is determined. Here's what the pay bands are. Here's why they were created that way. Here's what your coworker in the same pay band makes. Here's the process for how we determine what pay is. You need to be able to explain that, and you need to make sure that employees have a route to that knowledge, because without it, they're going to have those little niggling thoughts all the time of if they're being underpaid, and they are going to look elsewhere. And these days they are going to get, once they're applying to jobs, they're going to get jobs that are higher pay. That is just economics, because everybody needs new people and they're willing to pay a lot of money. So if you have an employee that you like, really treat them well, really make sure that they have great expectations of what to expect. They feel supported. Mental health resources are a huge thing that people should be providing for their employees right now. We're big fans of self-care days, making sure that people know that their mental health is a priority, and that can look like adding some therapy access to your plan. It can look like bringing in a therapist sometimes to your workplace and letting people access that resource for free. It can look like family and caregiver leave. It can look like something like a pet grievance and giving people empathy that they need during those tense moments. It can look like a lot of things, but just make sure that you're really thinking about your people and in fact, asking them, like, what do you need to see? Because they'll tell you. And that's really the best way to make sure that you're giving them what they want. So, we've gone through kind of our spiel here. Again, this was super high level. So if you do have any questions pertaining to specific elements of either something that we've gone over or something that we haven't touched on and you're wondering about, please drop that in the chat. If not, what we can do is let you know what else we're up to and how else you can engage with us in the future. And I know that Ali would be excited to tell you about what we're doing at OR this year, because we're excited about it.
Yeah, so again, don't feel shy about asking a question in the chat. There is no wrong question. And also, I feel like once somebody asks a question, then the rest come pouring in, as that happens with our office hours. So just going to throw that out there. But yeah, so we are excited to be at Outdoor Retailer again this January. We were there over the summer with our event Gather. It was a speed networking and happy hour event that saw an audience of about 500 folks. We are thrilled to be back there. We will be indoors in January. We won't be outdoors like we were over the summer, but we will be there having a networking happy hour and then having a few, probably about a dozen brands that will be able to set up at a table and network with potential job seekers, network with media, network with kind of whoever it is that you as the brand are looking to network with. So definitely, chat with us if that is of interest to you. We would love to have multiple representatives from your brand there on site to talk to people, and we can tell you more about what that opportunity looks like. So please don't hesitate to reach out on that front.
Yeah, and the other things that we're doing, we're going to be at America Outdoors next week as well. So if you happen to be there, please let us know because we'd love to say hi. And then we're also in the middle of a big site build, and the object of our new site is to make it really easy for job seekers and employers to connect by asking you these questions that we're talking about. Well, we know job seekers want to know this, and so we're going to ask you that and help you display that information, and once again, just connect meaningfully. So watch out for the new Basecamp that we are at. wearetheoutdoorindustry.com. So that's where you can go right now. We have a bunch of services that we do for brands, and that's anything from, the newsletter, like Ali said, posting your job, but also helping with job descriptions and branding and career pages and things like that. So please reach out. And I do see a couple of questions. So yeah, how should small retailers handle higher wages for staff? Should we start increasing prices for service work and or reduce sale prices? So small retailers, I'm not sure where you are in the country because that matters here. But if you are in a mountain town and you are giving people below what they can afford for rent, they're just not going to be able to work with you. So there's a couple things that you can do that we've seen other retailers do, and that has to do with housing a lot. So either they will help their employees find housing, or they will subsidize housing in some way, or we're seeing some build new housing. And if you're a small retailer, you probably can't do that. But I can say that if you're not paying, at least within the realm of the local fast food joint, it's going to be really tough. I can't answer your question in terms of like if you should start, where you should start increasing prices and the economics of your business. But I can say if you want to attract good people and get the word of mouth about your business out there, I would go, I would do that extra 50 cents or $1 per hour and make people feel really valued. And yeah, that's a tough one though.
I'd like to chime in there too. This was actually a conversation that just happened last week in the Facebook group. And one of the, I think consensus points that came out of it, and feel free to DM me and I can tag you in the conversation if you're in the group or join the group and blah, blah, blah. I'll get you on that thread. But commission is such an amazing way. So if there is a margin, within your inventory that you are comfortable giving a percentage of that to the employee for selling product, commission is an amazing way for employees to have skin in the game, feel motivated, but also, make a little boost on top of their hourly wage. And that's an amazing incentive. I actually used to work at Nordstrom, so not an outdoor retailer, but all commission based. And it really was an amazing way to have a little bit of control over your finances. I also worked in outdoor retail, so there's that too, but just wanted to throw that structure out there because it was definitely a consensus point within that conversation. And then secondarily, just from a marketing perspective, since we are talking about how to market your jobs, when we're talking about retail, what Jenna and I have identified in a large way is that retail is an incredible incubator for building out your transferable skills to either, stay in retail and work your way up the chain and learn about how these businesses run, but also just to take that business acumen and take it to other jobs that you may do in the future. So make sure that you are advertising these, if it's true, as opportunities to learn business skills and let your employees in on some of those business conversations and those business decisions, and give them autonomy over maybe potentially small business decisions so that they can start to learn and see this as an opportunity to then work their way up, as opposed to, oh, I'm going to get a retail job, and that's it. And that's sort of the end all be all. So retail is actually just an incredible way to move into the industry. You meet reps, you learn what reps do. That's an avenue you can take from retail. A lot of people within the outdoor industry got their start in retail. So I highly recommend that you use this as a storytelling opportunity as you're putting that job posting out into the world.
Yeah, fantastic, Ali. Thank you for, hitting home on that. And then just another piece of that, when we talk about retail a lot, we are not talking about you necessarily. We are talking about those retailers. They're massive. They can absolutely afford to pay more, and they're not. We are talking directly to them. For small retailers, we want you to talk about who you are and differentiate yourself. So Ali and I are a small business, and we talk about that. And we say sometimes $15 an hour for this remote position is what we can offer. And, it's completely flexible, it's remote, et cetera. We're hiring an entry level person. And we understand that that pay is not going to be enough for everyone, but we're also saying we're a small business, we're local, and here's what we can offer you. And so that's a huge differentiation. If I know that you're a mega corporation versus a person who goes home at the end of the day and feeds their family with these assumedly not huge margins, that is going to make a big difference too. So definitely be telling that story. Additionally, Danielle, you asked if we've seen success with larger virtual hiring events. We haven't done a huge virtual hiring event. We actually see a lot of success with the more intimate hiring events that we do. We call them office hours. So we have about 70 people in those, which I wouldn't call a large hiring event. And it's interactive. So it's letting people actually talk to those hiring managers and ask their individual questions and get face time. And the people, or the brands rather, they now are getting a front row seat to the questions that people have about their business and what's not clear on their career page, in their job descriptions, across their brand voice. And the candidates that are coming, they're getting this FaceTime and answers directly from people. And knowing if they care enough to come talk to them is a really big piece of this. Just that they would take the time, that goes a lot. So I'm not really sure if I answered your question there, just because we haven't done like a huge one. But anytime that you're willing to say, even on your own social media channels, hey, by the way, we're doing an Instagram live, or we're doing a Q&A, showing that you're willing to talk to people and you see them and you understand that they might have questions will go a long way. One more question.
Yep.
Is it possible to bring you into our organization to present to our leadership? Yes, absolutely. We can go into orgs. That's what we've been doing a lot in Basecamp, actually, is going to specific companies and auditing what they're doing and say, okay, here's the gaps based on what we know people are wanting and what you're doing. Oftentimes they're doing a lot of great things. Again, they're just not talking about it. So yeah, we'd be happy to do that if you want to connect with us.
We could also identify areas where you may be putting up blockers without knowing that you are, for instance, if your careers website requires a sign-in to apply and other things like that. So we can definitely sort of do an audit, point out where there's already sort of friction in the process, and then also talk to you about ways to best practices and ways to improve the process. And we can take it even more bespoke from there. We've done multiple types of this sort of thing. So definitely reach out.
I just want to drop one more tip because it's on the top of my head. Have an open role platform or portal on your website and ask the question, why do you want to work for us? Because that helps you understand how you're being perceived by people, and all of the reasons that they want to work for you probably would appeal to others too. So lean into those and talk about those more. It's great information. And then also you're getting candidates all the time. So if you do have a hiring emergency, like let's say you're like, oh my gosh, this person quit, I need someone now, you do have a little bit of a Rolodex to reach out to first. And you know that there are people that are really invested in what you're doing, not just people that want a job.
Well, thank you so much for that. I know we're at the top of the hour. So Jenna and Ali, just thank you for your time and expertise. I can tell you, I personally learned so much today and really enjoyed hearing you and hearing from our attendees as well. To everybody on the call, we have recorded this and we will be posting it to our website tomorrow. We also will be following up with an email and ways to get in touch with Jenna and Ali after the fact. So if you have any additional questions before then, feel free to reach me. You got a confirmation for this from me. So feel free to just reach back out to me and I'll get you in touch with them before we get you all the contact information. But it was a pleasure. Thank you, Jenna and Ali. I look forward to seeing you in Denver in January.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank
Well,
you.
have a good day.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank-
Thank you.
Bye.